Hello there, and welcome back for another Star Wars info video. Today we'll be reviewing the first episode of the Book of Boba Fett on Disney+. It's pretty exciting to see. Had a great time with the show, and definitely a lot happened. The show opens with Boba Fett inside a Bacta tank, which isn't the first time we've seen a Bacta tank. We've seen those actually used with Darth Vader in the main Star Wars universe already. It's kind of like a healing tank or a healing space utilized in the Star Wars universe. While in the tank, Boba Fett starts having flashbacks, which takes him all over the place throughout his history. We see shots of Kamino, the Battle of Geonosis, when he picks up his father's helmet. And then we get to the scene where we start to see him make his escape from the Sarlacc by finding a stormtrooper inside the Sarlacc's belly, who had been digesting there for some time, as there were no stormtroopers at the actual battle with Jabba and Luke and Han and Chewie and everyone. After being able to get a bit of air, he goes and starts to burn his way out of the Sarlacc. So you see him kind of burn through the side and climb out through the sand. Upon escape, he passes out, is laying there. Then eventually some Jawas find him, which kind of is where we figure out how the Jawas come across his armor, is they immediately strip him of his armor. This is where we see the burns that Boba suffered from the Sarlacc. It's kind of stomach acids, our digestive system, which he had already started to experience on the surface of his skin, even through his Beskar armor. He's then discovered by the Sand People, or Tusken Raiders, depending on your point of view, which you want to go with. I think for the most part, I'll probably go with, we'll go with the Tuskens, is how we'll refer to them in this video. So the Tuskens bind Boba and drag him through the desert back to their camp. There he's kind of tied to a post and is left under watch. It's unclear what's going to happen to him at this point. After some time, there's another prisoner added to the mix, which is a Rodian, the same race as Greedo. I think it's the only real time we've seen them in the Star Wars universe. And during the night, they are left under the watch of a Tusken reptilian guard dog. These are known as Massives. And Boba does utilize the Massive to escape, as he kind of lures it in and uses its teeth to release the rope that he was tied to. But the Rodian prisoner, rather than escape, decides to yell and notify the Tuskens of Boba's release, and that leads to a chase down in the desert. This results in a one-on-one duel between Boba and one of the Tuskens, and let's just say it's unclear if it has to do with his wounds, maybe the lack of food, but Boba gets soundly defeated in this one-on-one confrontation. This is when Boba's woken up by Fennec and kind of hear calling it to him while he's in this sort of Bacta dream. And as Boba wakes, we get to see how much he's healed from his scars. He's looking very, very healthy, has some color back in his skin. And we realize he's in Jabba's palace. So this is seemingly after the events of The Mandalorian, where he had already kind of reclaimed the throne from Bib Fortuna. And in his new role as sort of the crime lord of Mos Espa, which is the town that they occupy here in Tatooine, Boba begins to receive tributes as the new crime lord. So these are folks and different crime bosses and persons of interest from all over Mos Espa who are essentially delivering goods and homage to Boba Fett. A person of note during this exchange has been the major domo for the mayor of Mos Espa, where there's an interesting exchange. Clearly they expected the actual mayor to show up and give tribute, but instead the major domo shows up and almost is kind of asking for tribute from Boba and Fennec, and that was a quite the scene. And so as they kind of gauged in this sort of verbal sparring. And then lastly in the scene, Boba Fett decides to spare the lives of two Gamorrean guards who had previously served under both Jabba and Bib Fortuna. And it was kind of against Fennec's wishes, but he saw that their loyalty to sort of the crime lord being something worth investing in the future. And so he kind of brought them along, and now they're a team of 4 in his band of troops. Once that situation settled itself, they head off to a place called Sanctuary in Mos Espa. It's like a bar slash brothel, seemingly slash casino, kind of like the place to be in Mos Espa. And we also get to see the return of one of our favorite characters, the great blue boy himself, Max Rebo, and one of the members of his band who at least stuck around, and they're kind of delivering some of the entertainment there, which was kind of great. Nice little callback to Return of the Jedi and Jabba's palace. While in the sanctuary, he introduces himself to Madame Garza, who appears to be the owner of the establishment known as the Sanctuary. And this seems to be the least confrontational meeting that Boba Fett has throughout the show, where Madame Garza seems to very much already pay her tribute, offers him a helmet full of coins, and that definitely lines up well, at least with the concept of the word sanctuary, and so we'll see how that story plays out throughout the season. But that was the end of the peaceful interactions for Boba Fett. It's as soon as they leave the sanctuary, they are ambushed by, we can just call them assassins for now, with some energy shields and sort of shock staffs is what we'll call it, and definitely Boba and Finnick are in a tight spot. They're completely surrounded, but luckily the Gamorrean guards, who were newly acquired, ended up showing up and definitely helped out and kind of broke the circle and led to an all-out battle between the four of them and roughly 6 or 7 assassins. The group does go on to defeat the assassins, and as 2 of them, or almost 3 of them, start to escape, well, Boba rocket destroys one of them and sends Finnick after the other 2. He does instruct her to bring them back alive, and we kind of see a nice little parkour chase as they do a bunch of fancy jumps and leaps throughout the high rise of Mos Espa. Finnick does chase down 2 of them and realizes she only really needs 1, and quickly dispatches of the extra weight. While this is taking place, Boba, after suffering some additional injuries during this confrontation with the assassins, is carried back to the Bacta tank by the Gamorrean guards. Upon entering the tank, Boba goes back into his flashbacks, and we find that he's back in the Tusken village, and one of the children of the Tuskens is taking Boba and the Rodian prisoner out into the desert to complete some tasks. While on their journey, they observe what can only be equivalent to essentially a biker gang or a speeder gang who are out there raiding a home, which has very much callbacks to sort of Luke's home with his Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru, and the sort of burning home out in the desert that has very striking visual comparison. They avoid the speeder gang and continue on their way. They get to a certain area, and the Tusken kid kind of instructs them to begin digging, and the Rodian and Boba start digging in the sand, and they start finding these shells, and we'll call them sand shells. They probably have another technical name, but these sand shells essentially hold water in them, and so it's one of the hidden ways that the Tuskens seem to survive out in the desert. While they're digging, the Rodian prisoner eventually finds something that begins to resemble a hand, and he digs a bit further in and finds an arm, and then all of a sudden, boom, something pops out of the sand, and the what I can only describe as a creature I'm unfamiliar with in Star Wars, but it looked like a large reptilian Goro from Mortal Kombat. It had 2 sets of arms and some legs, so about 6 appendages in total, and just immediately completely wrecks the Rodian prisoner, R.I.P. Rodians, begins to beat up Boba Fett, starts to make its way towards the Tusken child, and Boba does eventually save the Tusken with the chain that he was tied to the Rodian prisoner as he kind of strangles the Goro creature. After saving the child, Boba and the Tusken kid return back to the village. They bring the head of the reptilian creature, and we find that the kid is kind of sharing their story with the rest of the sort of Tusken group, and the chief Tusken passes water to Boba, kind of leading to his acceptance. And this is where the show kind of wraps up and ends, and we kind of see that transition from prisoner to at least non-prisoner status for Boba Fett. So thoughts on episode 1? I thought it was great. I think it is just a good, fill in the blank for those clearly missing pieces for Boba Fett's story. I think for so many fans who are happy to see Boba Fett return, but you're looking for an understanding of how did he get back, or how did he survive the Sarlacc. Filling in those blanks really answers those questions, get them out the way, and then we can focus forward as we move through the story. I assume Boba will continue to get injured and hurt, so I picture there will be more Bacta Dream flashbacks in the future of the show, as well as navigating who these assassins are, some of the major or minor players we've got to meet already. It should be great. So definitely hats off to Lucasfilm, Disney Plus, Dave Filoni, Jon Favreau. This is a great start to a great show. I'm really looking forward to the rest of it, and enjoy. This recap video is in place of this week's news. Is there any bigger news than the fact that Star Wars is having the Book of Boba Fett on Disney Plus right now? Probably not. A little bit longer than I thought it would have been. I'll find ways to kind of shorten it down, but I thank you for stopping by. Looking forward to making more recap videos for the Book of Boba Fett, future Star Wars shows and projects, and wish everyone a happy New Year's. Please subscribe if you're interested in more of these videos, recaps, Star Wars content. This is just a bit of fun, and I'm really having a good time diving deeper into my own fandom of the Star Wars universe and sharing with everyone. So with that in mind, please have a great day. Be safe out there, and may the Force be with you.